Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here. How y'all doing? So, when it comes to Ninjago, we have gotten many characters over the years. And we've gotten a lot of really interesting, well-written, and likable characters when it comes to the show. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about one character in particular, with that character being Pixal. Now, Pixal is a character who I personally really like. She is a character who I think is a legitimately interesting and well-written character, yet despite that, I feel like the show hasn't really done the best job at handling Pixal's character. So in today's video, I wanted to take a look at Pixal's time during the events of the show, discuss what I like about her, and discuss how I feel like the show hasn't been handling her the best, in order to explain why I feel like Pixal deserves better when it comes to Ninjago. So, let's get into this whole thing. So let's start off at the very beginning with Season 3. Rebooted is Pixal's debut season, and we see Pixal for the first time during the first episode of Season 3, The Surge. During this episode, we see that Pixel is Cyrus Borg's robotic assistant, and upon seeing her, Zane almost instantly falls in love with Pixel, and Zane and Pixel's relationship ends up being a pretty big part of both Seasons 3 and 4, but like I said, initially Pixel starts off as being Cyrus Borg's robotic assistant, and that's essentially all she really was during this first episode. She was an assistant for Cyrus Borg and also a robot. However, that ended up changing after she met Zane, and that especially ended up changing in episode 3, The Blackout, where during that episode, Zane ended up giving Pixel half of his heart. And as a result of this, we saw a big change when it came to Pixel. From this episode onward, we saw Pixel learning more about emotions and expressing her feelings. And this ends up being a very big part of Pixel's character during this season, as well as during Season 4, Pixel learning about emotions and learning how to express herself. This is a very big deal, given the fact that when it comes to Pixel, obviously she is a robot. Yet despite that, Pixel is still able to learn about emotions, and she learns about what it means to express them and feel things. And this is something else interesting, because this ends up tying into Zane's storyline for the season, which revolves around his humanity and what it means for Zane to be a human. We end up getting a chance to see this with Pixel, because when it comes to both her and Zane, the two of them are both robots, yet despite that, the two of them are very in touch with their emotions and them feeling things. And when it comes to Zane, he ends up teaching Pixel a lot about what it means to be a human, mainly through emotions. And that is something that we see with Pixel all throughout the events of Season 3, with her learning more and more about emotions and what it means to express and feel them, to the point that by the time Season 3 comes to an end, we see Pixel expressing a lot of emotions by the time the season ends, and she even ends up falling in love with Zane over the events of Season 3, which I think is honestly a really interesting thing to see during the events of the season. And we also see this idea of emotions continue during Season 4. During this season, we find out that when it comes to Pixel, her body ended up getting destroyed, and Pixel now exists only as an artificial intelligence program on a computer. However, Zane is able to take that program, and he's able to insert it in the back of his head, and this allows Pixel to now be with Zane, with Pixel now acting as an artificial intelligence program inside of Zane's head, thus allowing her to help out Zane in a number of different ways. However, there's something very interesting that we see with these two during Season 4, more specifically though, during the episode The Day of the Dragon. Now, all throughout the events of Season 4, something that we saw was Zane being really unsure of himself, mainly with Zane being inside of a brand new body. And remember, when it comes to Zane, his humanity was a very big part of his storyline during the events of Season 3, but now that Zane is inside of a new body, he's starting to question his humanity and who he is now, to the point that by the time we get to the episode The Day of the Dragon, Zane ends up going into a full existential crisis as a result of this, yet Pixel is able to help him out with this, and Pixel is able to help Zane come to terms with him being inside of a new body. And this relates into something really interesting that we see when it comes to Zane and Pixel during Seasons 3 and 4, and it's that these two learn more about what it means to be the other one. And what I mean by that is this. When it comes to Zane and Pixel, obviously the two of them are both robots. Yet despite this, the two of them are a lot more in tune with a certain side of themselves. When it comes to Zane, he's much more in touch with his human side. Meanwhile, when it comes to Pixel, she's more in touch with her robot side. Yet the two of them learn from each other, and Pixel learns more about what it means to be a human, and Zane learns more about what it means to be a robot, to the point that when it comes to Zane, he ends up accepting himself in a new body, and he's able to embrace his identity of him being the Titanium Ninja. And again, this is something that I find to be pretty interesting, given that when it comes to Pixel, Zane was able to help her learn about what it means to be a human and what it means to express emotions and feel things during Season 3, and during the events of Season 4, Pixel was able to help Zane learn more about what it means to be a robot, which allowed Zane to accept himself as the Titanium Ninja, which I think is honestly pretty cool. However, after Season 4, this is where I feel like the show starts to handle Pixel's character poorly, because after Season 4, Pixel doesn't really get that much. In Seasons 5, 6, and Day of the Departed, Pixel doesn't really get anything to do in any of these seasons, and when it comes to Pixel, she really only exists as an artificial intelligence program inside of Zane's head, and that's really it. Again, Pixel doesn't really get that much when it comes to these three installments. However, Seasons 7 and 8 do something pretty interesting with Pixel, because during these seasons, we get a chance to see Pixel as Samurai X. And this is an idea that I like. With Pixel getting a physical body again, it allows her to take a more active role in the story, with her being able to help out the ninja in ways other than just her being an artificial intelligence program. Now she can help out the ninja with combat, or she can help out the ninja in other ways. When it comes to Pixel getting a physical body again and her becoming the new Samurai X, I think that is a legitimately good idea. However, I feel like Seasons 7 and 8 don't really do the best job at handling this, and it's for a few different reasons. For starters, I feel like when it comes to the twist of Pixel being Samurai X, I feel like this twist was kind of obvious when it came to the show, mainly because shortly after Pixel disappeared from Zane's head, the new Samurai X showed up, and I feel like it didn't really take a genius to put two and two together and realize what was going on here. Secondly, though, when it comes to Season 7, we didn't really see that much of Samurai X, given that when it came to the new Samurai X, we only really got a chance to see them during the second half of Season 7, and that was pretty much it. So the new Samurai X didn't really get that much screen time when it came to the season, which is something else that I feel didn't really help this. And finally, another big issue that I have when it comes to Pixel being the new Samurai X is that it feels like the show doesn't really do that much with this. Now, when it comes to Pixel being Samurai X, this is something that we get a chance to see a lot of during Seasons 7 and 8, and a few more times after this, but it feels like after the big reveal of Pixel being the new Samurai X, it feels like Pixel doesn't really get that much overall, and when it comes to Pixel, it feels like she doesn't have a very large role in the show following this reveal. Now, when it comes to Pixel, I do feel like we get something legitimately interesting from her during Season 8. Specifically, though, during the episode The Quiet One, we get this really nice conversation between her and Zane, where Pixel talks about how she likes having a physical body again, but she is willing to give it up, and she's willing to go back inside of the computer if it's what Zane wants. However, Zane ends up revealing that the choice was always Pixel's on whether or not she wanted a physical body or if she wanted to exist as a computer program, and when it comes to Zane, he wants Pixel to be happy, and he wants her to make the choice about what she wants to be, which is something that I do legitimately really like. However, after this, it feels like Pixel doesn't really get that much for the remainder of not just Season 8, but the Oni trilogy as a whole. After this, Pixel doesn't really get that much. She does help out the ninja during the final battle against the Oni Titan, but that's about it. During the events of Season 9, Pixel doesn't really have that large of a role when it comes to the season, and during Season 10, she does go along with the ninja on their adventure in order to help save some civilians, but even then, she doesn't really get that much outside of rescuing Lloyd and Garmadon during Episode 3, and that's pretty much it. I mean, when it comes to Pixel, she doesn't even say anything during the final episode of the season, so when it comes to the Oni trilogy, I feel like she wasn't really handled the best overall. However, there's a larger issue that I have when it comes to Pixel during the Oni trilogy, and it's that, to me at the very least, it feels like Pixel was brought back and she was given a physical body again just for her to be sidelined. Because again, when it comes to Pixel, after the big reveal of her being Samurai X, it feels like she doesn't really get that much for the remainder of the Oni trilogy, which in my opinion is a missed opportunity. I think it would have been interesting if we had gotten a chance to see Pixel take a more active role during the Oni trilogy and she had a larger role during the seasons. But again, after the reveal of Pixel being Samurai X during Season 8, we don't really get that much of a chance to see that during the trilogy. And then we have the Wild Brain era of the show, and when it comes to Pixel during this era, it was interesting. So for starters, we have season 11, and during the season, we get a chance to see that when it comes to Pixel, she ended up building all of the new vehicles for the ninja, and she was even the one who made the secret base. Not only that, but on multiple occasions, we get a chance to see Pixel as Samurai X fighting against bad guys, which is something that I do legitimately really like. But for the most part, Pixel doesn't really get that much to do overall during the events of Season 11, but for the few brief moments that we do get a chance to see her in some kind of large role, I feel like she is mostly handled well. After this, we have Prime Empire, where Pixel once again doesn't really get that much to do during the season, given that her and Zane have to stay in the real world while the rest of the ninja go inside of the video game. That being said, though, something interesting that we do see is that when Pixel finds Milton Dyer reveals that he thinks that artificial intelligence programs are just computer programs and they don't have the ability to feel emotions or feelings, and Pixel ends up getting really angry at this, which is something that I do legitimately really like, given that when it comes to Pixel, a major part of her storyline during Season 3 was her learning about emotions and how to express and feel them, so her getting angry at Milton Dyer saying that computer programs aren't able to do that, that is something that I do legitimately really like. But then after this, we have Master of the Mountain and the Island, and in both of these seasons, Pixel appears in just the first episode of both of these seasons, and that's it. We then have Seabound, where Pixel does go along with the ninja in order to help them, but when it comes to Pixel, yet again, she doesn't really get that much to do during the season. And then we have Crystallized, and honestly, I genuinely feel like when it comes to Pixel during this season, she was actually handled better during this season than most of the ninja were, given that when it comes to Pixel, she ends up doing a lot of stuff when it comes to this season. When it comes to Pixel, she's the one who makes a bunch of the new vehicles for the ninja, she's the one who gets help from Cyrus Borg on a number of different occasions, she's the one who makes the defense protocols for the monastery, she's the one who ends up helping out Zane, she's the one who ends up developing the tech that the ninja used to fight back against the Vengestone warriors, and more. Pixel honestly gets a lot to do when it comes to the season, and I honestly feel like she is handled pretty well when it comes to Crystallized. And then finally, we have Season 1 of Dragon's Rising, where according to the writers, Pixel was actually in the first 2 episodes of the season, since Pixel was the one who was piloting the Destiny's Bounty. Remotely. And we never see this at any point during the season, and the season never hints at this at any point, and the only way that you would have known about this is if you either kept up with the Twitter of the writers, or if you watched a YouTube video where someone said that this was the case, or something else like that, because the show never once suggests that Pixel is doing this at any point. So, yeah, I feel like when it comes to the stuff with Pixel during Dragon's Rising, it wasn't really handled the best overall. And so when it comes to Pixel, like I said at the beginning of the video, I personally feel like when it comes to Pixel, she deserves better when it comes to the show. Because personally, I really like Pixel, and I think that she is a legitimately interesting and well-written character when it comes to the show. We saw that during seasons 3 and 4, and I feel like there have been Ninjago seasons that have shown that Pixel can be a good character. Like when it comes to seasons 11, 12, and even Crystallize, I feel like these seasons did a good job at handling Pixel, but by and large, I feel like Pixel overall hasn't really been handled the best, mainly because, like I said earlier, it feels like Pixel ends up getting sidelined a lot when it comes to the show. Now, I like what the writers were trying to go for when it came to Pixel during seasons 7 and 8, but overall, I feel like the show didn't really handle her the best during those seasons, and so when it comes to Pixel, a big issue that I have when it comes to the way that the show is handling her is that, again, it feels like Pixel ends up getting sidelined a lot when it comes to the show, and it feels like her only real role in the show for a long time at this point has just been the ninja's mechanic and Zane's girlfriend. That is it. That's basically all Pixel has gotten for a long time. which is something that I'm not really the biggest fan of, because again, I like Pixal. I think that she is a good character when it comes to the show, and I am hoping that when it comes to Pixal's return during the events of Dragons Rising, hopefully that season is able to handle Pixal's character well, and we're able to get something really good that revolves around Pixal when she does return during the events of Dragons Rising. It's something that I am hoping that we get a chance to see. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? Tell me, what are your guys' thoughts when it comes to Pixel and Ninjago, and how do you guys think she's been handled when it comes to the show? Tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.